Well, good morning, everyone. For those that came perhaps a little bit late, my name is Father John Lemire. I am a priest from the Diocese of Timmins. Timmins is about 8 hours north of Toronto, and I'm really happy to be with you this morning to talk a little bit about what does it mean for us as young people to build a culture of life. Just as we begin then to try to situate ourselves a little bit, how many of you, is this your first time to be at a pro-life conference or to be involved with the March for Life? So we've got a few newbies. How many of you are in high school? How many from university? Okay, so a blend of both. How many of you have a high school or university pro-life group already that you belong to? Good. So we've got some really experienced people here and some of us that are here for the first time to learn a little bit about how we can become engaged a little more in a culture of life. As you know, gathering here in these past couple of days, we're celebrating a very sad anniversary. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary in Canada of having a law, or in a sense, no law, that protects the unborn child. And so it is perfectly legal in our country for a woman to kill her unborn child from the moment that she conceives that child to just before the moment that she gives birth. So 40 years our country has not protected the unborn child. It is a long, long time. I've been involved now in the pro-life movement for the past 25 years. I started off being involved in the pro-life movement as a young person at the high school level. And when I first became involved in the pro-life movement at the age of 15, I thought that if I got involved for a couple of years, maybe 5 years at most, we would be able to put an end to abortion, that this would not be a reality that we would have to discuss or to work at anymore. I think there's something good about having that naivete as young people, because if we didn't have that initial naivete, I don't know if we would get involved in the battle, knowing how long and how difficult a struggle it is. But nonetheless, it is a battle that must be fought. It is a battle that we must persist at. And so 25 years ago, I became involved in both the pro-life movement and the political movement, trying to make a change within our society. When I was growing up in Timmins in Northern Ontario, I didn't really hear a whole lot about the issue of abortion. It seemed that it was something that took place distant, far, far away. We were 8 hours from Toronto. It was not a big issue on the radar map in my small community. But every now and then I would hear some talk and some discussion about the issue of abortion. We didn't at that time have a pro-life group in my Catholic high school, nor in my community. And so the little bit of information I had found came through news articles and through pamphlets that I had read. And as I was reading and learning more about the pro-life movement, I really felt something within me that I was being called to make a difference, called to do something. This back was in the year 1985, and Dr. Henry Morgentaler was just beginning his abortion clinics in Toronto. But again, I thought to myself, as a 15-year-old, what can I do? Toronto was so far away, 8 hours away. I'm a full-time student at high school. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of power. I don't have a position. But still, I felt in my heart that God was calling me to do something in the pro-life movement. And so I began talking to some of my other friends and peers in high school. And we began to think that maybe we should bring up a speaker to talk to us and to educate us a little bit more about the life issues, especially that of abortion. And so through some various contacts, we were fortunate enough to bring up Father Tom Lynch. Many of us know Father Tom, who's been involved in the movement for the past 40 years, who's now working very diligently with us in Priests for Life Canada as our national director. And so Father Tom came to our high school. We had an assembly with all 400 of us present, and he gave this rousing presentation to us about the issues of life and how young people can make a difference. And then he left, and we began to think, what now concretely can we do with this information and with this enthusiasm that we had? Well, it just so happened that back in 1985, right after Father Tom's presentation to us, the provincial Conservative Party was holding a leadership election. And I know that many of you are going to be too young to even remember some of these names. These are ancient history to you. But in 1985, there were two men that were running for the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party. The first man was named Larry Grossman from Toronto area. And the second man that was running was a man named Alan Pope, who actually happened to be my own member of provincial parliament. And one of the things that happened in the midst of the election, this Alan Pope came out with the hideous statement that if he was elected as the new conservative leader, that he would force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions. Now, there was a great outcry when all of this happened in our local community. And my high school colleagues, my peers, said, we need to do something about this. We were already charged from Father Tom's presentation. We were eager and excited to make a difference. And so we talked to our school principal and said, we want to have a demonstration. Now, none of us had ever demonstrated before. I don't even think in Timmins there had ever been any demonstration about anything, let alone about abortion. And so we decided that that's what we were going to do. We quickly wrote up a press release and circulated it to the press that was in our community. We gathered in our school gym after school one night. We were given Bristol board and markers. We made our posters. We were all ready to go and picket the next day. And then that morning, as we arrived at school, we heard the news that Mr. Pope had changed his position. He had heard about the opposition, the outcry, and the stupidity of his announcement that he would force Catholic hospitals to commit abortions, and he retracted his position. But we were all gung-set. We already had our posters. We had our energy. And so regardless of what his statement was, we were still going to picket that afternoon. And so after school, we left with a group of about 60 of us, joined by our school principal, Sister Faye Edmonds, a number of teachers, and we were accompanied even by the bishop of our diocese, the first bishop ever to come out at a political protest. And we gathered in front of Alan Pope's office in downtown Timmins. Neither the people on the streets or those that drove by knew what was happening. Alan Pope's office didn't know what was happening. As soon as we arrived there, they drew the curtains, they locked the doors, and they huddled by themselves. I'm not sure what they were afraid of these 60 Catholic students, a nun and a bishop were going to do to them, but they were terrified and afraid of us. We were there for an hour to picket, and we made our point. But not only did we make our point with Alan Pope's position that day, but we as young people learned very quickly, learned firsthand that we were not powerless. We learned that we did have a voice. And we learned that with our work, with our actions, we could make a small difference. And not only did we make a difference that day, but we began to make a difference in what was taking place in our community, and I hope in some ways in our country in a small way. And so, with that experience, filled with a sense of enthusiasm and a sense of victory that we had made a difference, we formed our own pro-life group, the first time in our school's history to have a pro-life group. And we began to educate ourselves about the life issues. We began to talk to our classmates about the life issues. And we gradually became more and more confident in our abilities to be able to bring that message not only to our high school students, but also to the broader community. And a few years after that forming of that youth pro-life group at our school, I founded our first adult pro-life group in our community as a young person to help mobilize those within our community to make a difference. And from there, we were able to help people to be able to understand the issues and to take a stance.